You know, it's kind of weird how little effort Marvel seems to put in making the Ant-Man movies, and yet how much fun I have watching them. Ant-Man and the Wasp picks up 2 years after the events of Civil War. As part of a plea deal for not winding up in a secret prison or something, or however that works, Scott Lang has been under house arrest for 2 years. He's had no contact with Hope or Hank Pym, mostly thanks to the events of Civil War, but when he has this weird dream about Hope's mother, who, as you remember from the first movie, was lost in the quantum realm, they contact him because apparently there might be a way to find her. And the secrets are all locked inside Scott's head. And thanks to the classically good writing in the Marvel movies, we see multiple different plot lines balanced out between multiple days. One plot line has Scott trying to help Hank and Hope recover Hope's mom. Another plot line has Scott trying to avoid and defeat the mysterious ghost who has been attacking Hank and Hope. We see the return of Luis, played by the lovable Michael Pena, and the crew from the first movie. They're all trying to start this security business that Scott has to help them with. As a secondary villain, he's mostly there for laughs and to, push the plot every once in a while, but he's good too. Scott has to deal with him at the same time. And while all this is going on, Scott has to remain, or seemingly remain, stuck in his house because, again, house arrest. And so what we get isn't really a big blockbuster action movie with the occasional bit of comedy. It's actually the reverse. I think the Ant-Man movies are what Marvel's attempting to do more for comedy. This is more of a comedy movie with some action scenes thrown in. And that is definitely where the movie is at its strongest. The action scenes are good, they are entertaining. Nothing terribly clever, but at the same time I still did have a lot of fun. But the jokes and the comedy in this movie were great. Almost all of them landed. And I won't say that there were any real gut busters, but there were a few times that I was actually laughing pretty hard. One thing that I really appreciate about the trailers, though, is that while it did show some of the humor, some of the action, what you saw was just the tip of the iceberg. All of the best material was kept away from the trailers, which is actually quite the accomplishment when you think about it. A lot of the comedy came from Scott's reactions to all the weird things happening around him, or the people talking near him who are way smarter than he is, to even a few moments in the fight scenes. If you're turned off by the grim and gritty appearance of like the DC movies as of late, then this is probably more in your ballpark. Frankly, out of all the Marvel movies, the Ant-Man movies seem to be the most kid-friendly. So I guess any parents in the audience can take note of that. Now I will say the villain was not what I was expecting. Now one thing that I'll say about the villain is that I didn't really know that much about her going in. I mean, frankly, the only thing I did know I got from the trailers. But while a lot of the villains in the Marvel movies have been either an evil version of the main character themselves or some greedy businessman who's out to take over the world or make a profit or some crap like that, Ghost was much more a victim of circumstance and tried to come off as a little more sympathetic. It was kind of a rush job in that, but not so much that it didn't have some appeal. If I were to fault the movie in any way, it would probably be in some of the CG. Now, some of this movie is gorgeous, visually speaking. When they go into the quantum realm, when they show some of those scenes, everything around is just so trippy and so weird. It makes you wonder what's really going on, how small they really are. You've got this real sense of micro scale going on, and frankly, I love that kind of a thing. Visually, I found it as appealing as some of the scenes in Doctor Strange. And then there were scenes like the car chase scene that you saw in the trailer, where things are so clearly fake. I don't know if things were just interrupted in rendering, or if they couldn't get things to mesh the right way and just had to rush out a quick product, or they had to meet a deadline. But there were certain times that I couldn't just help but look at cars and just think that's clearly a bad layering job. Like, it doesn't mesh in with the rest of the world. It's clearly not actually crashing into that other car. I don't know, kind of lackluster in that way, but the scenes are over quickly. Definitely not Marvel's best work, but if they are just crapping out these Ant-Man movies just for the sake of doing them, they're still doing a pretty good job. So if you want to go to a good comedy with some superhero antics thrown in, this is definitely the movie to look for. And I will say there is one mid-credit scene that you must stay for. There is a post-credit scene, but frankly, you could miss that and really not miss anything. Personally, I think it was a mistake to put that in, but I won't spoil what it is here.